Now I wish to call to the podium Dean Lopez, who will introduce our commencement speaker and assist me in awarding an honorary degree.
Mr. President, I have for your consideration Mr. Jacob Green, the candidate for an honorary degree. As an assistant city manager for the city of San Juan Capistrano in Orange County, California, Jacob Green oversees community services, human resources, information technology, emergency management, public safety, and special projects. Prior to his current position, he worked for the City of Ontario, California as an emergency manager in the fire department, as an administrative director in the police department, and as a business operations director in the Economic Development Agency, and finally, as assistant city manager. Green holds a master's degree in public administration from California State University, Long Beach, and earned his bachelor's degree in social sciences with an emphasis in public and community service and a minor in management from the University of California, Irvine. He also maintains an economic development finance professional certification from the National Development Council. He has received numerous awards for his community service leadership, including the National Caring Award and the Orange County Human Relations Award, and was the youngest recipient of the Jean Lenser Humanitarian Award. Now, Mr. President, it is my pleasure to present Mr. Jacob Green as a candidate for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
Thank you, Dean Lopez. Now, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon you, Jacob Green, the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, with all the rights, honors, and privileges appertaining thereto. In witness whereof, I cause you to be invested with the hood appropriate to the degree and grant you this diploma.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. And thank you, Dean Lopez, Dean Hoppy, for that introduction. I'd like to first thank the Board of Trustees and Chairman Bond, President Wilson, senior administration, our two deans this morning, Dean Lopez and Dean Hoppy, faculty, graduates, woohoo! Family and friends. For family and friends. Graduates, you have all worked many years to get to this moment. You've spent thousands and thousands of hours. Your families have invested a lot in each and every one of you. You've consumed thousands of Red Bulls, all to complete your degree here with Western University, so it could all culminate with some guy wearing sunglasses you have never heard of before giving your commencement speech, and I thank you for that very much. I've been told there are 3,000 people here today, graduates, here to support each and every one of you, and I can't see a single one of them. But I can absolutely feel the energy and excitement in this room today. All morning long, it's been extraordinary. And I felt that same energy and excitement when I headed off to the University of California, Berkeley, to study international relations, diplomacy, and create world peace. And where better to do that than Berkeley, California? Like most college freshmen, I got myself a part-time job as a Berkeley guide. And my responsibility was to help people in downtown get from point A to point B. And so one night, in the second semester of my freshman year, working as a Berkeley guide, I was heading down the escalators into the subway station, and my first indication this was not going to be a normal evening was a woman was running up the down escalator screaming and pushed me aside as I went down. And as I got to the bottom of the platform, I saw in front of me, about 25 feet away, a gentleman had broken into the glass ticket booth in which the agents sell tickets, and he was attacking the two agents. And they were up against the wall screaming, and he was saying, "Give me the money, give me my money back, give me the money." And they were up against the wall, and he was slamming their equipment and breaking things and paper flying everywhere. But I could see that one of the agents was on a red phone up against the wall. And I thought, okay, she's either calling Batman or the police department, because I've seen the movies, I know what the red phone does. And if I could just distract a little bit of attention from the guy, he'd come out, someone would come save the day, Batman or the police, and I'd go along my merry way. So I yelled at the guy, "Hey, relax, calm down, take it easy." To my surprise, he actually listened to a college freshman. He said, "Huh?" He got out of the booth, he jumped over the turnstile, ran at me, pulled out something from behind his back, and began smashing me on the side of the head. I remember about 4 or 5 blows, and then the world went black. And trading my classroom and my studies, I was left with a traumatic brain injury and a series of debilitating deficits: short-term memory loss, spatial orientation deficit, reading comprehension deficit, reading retention deficit, navigation challenges, neuroocular motor dysfunction, auditory sensitivity, light sensitivity. But most devastating of all those deficits was the complete loss of meaning and hope and purpose and connection with the outside world. In order to get my life back, I had to drop out of Berkeley and enter the world of full-time rehabilitation, asking for help from professionals much like each and every one of you are going to become today. My first visit, when my care got transferred to Southern California, my first visit with my head treating physician started off very routine. The wonderful nurse took my background, my history, my vitals, brought me into the exam room and said, "Okay, Jacob, it'll be just a couple of minutes. Please wait for the doctor." No problem. So, like being a good patient, I did what I do in every single doctor appointment that I've had up to that point. Take off all my clothes, jump up on the exam table, freeze, and wait for the doctor to come in, right? So that's what I did, and I never understood why, if I have a brain injury, do I have to take off all my clothes, but that's what I usually have to do at my appointments. So I sat there on the table bundled up. A few minutes later, the door opens, person comes in, she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean what I'm doing? I'm waiting for the doctor." She says, "Why are you naked?" I said, "I'm waiting for the doctor. This is what I'm supposed to do." She said, "What do you mean? Why do you have the bed exam paper wrapped around you?" I said, "Because I didn't see a robe, and I didn't want to sit here totally naked, a little exposed." She said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Come off the table, put your clothes on." Okay, I was very thankful that I could take my clothes, put them back on, wouldn't have to be nude going through my story. And she pulled up a chair. She sat down in the chair next to me, and she said, "Take a seat." And the first thing that I noticed was she wasn't wearing a lab coat. She had removed that barrier between us. And for whatever reason, at that moment, after she introduced herself, I felt relieved of all those barriers between me and the outside world. I felt safe. I could start my journey back into the world, and the healing began. A few years later, I found myself in the hospital after a pretty major surgery. And I was struggling with a lot of intense pain, and that darn button on the morphine drip, which I know you've all learned about and studied, just wouldn't work. I would just push it as many times as I could. It didn't matter. It didn't take away any of that pain. And the nurses were caring for me throughout the day and all night long. And I had developed a very close relationship with those wonderful, extraordinary nurses who cared for me and saw me and took care of my family. And they knew that at day 4 or 5, that I was actually not improving, that my pain was so debilitating that I was starting to hunch and become recluse and not connect with the outside world and not recover. And on about day 4 or 5, I saw the nurses, my friends, the nurses, start to conspire with my family, and something was going on. And one of the nurses came up to me and she said, "Hey, Jacob, tomorrow you're going to be visited by a four-legged friend." I thought, okay, fantastic. Four-legged friend, maybe Lassie or Benji are going to come prancing into the hospital room, and we're going to embrace like in a cornfield and have a great time recovering together. But I also knew that this was a sterile environment. This was a quite restricted environment. Not sure how it works to bring four-legged friends. But the next day, the door opened. I'm ready to embrace and receive Lassie, and instead, there is the ugliest 6-foot mutant poodle that walks into the room. Actually terrified me, completely scared me, made all the bells and whistles go off on all the monitoring machines. But that horse thing, which I guess has paws or hands or something, came over to the bed, put its paws, hands on me carefully, and wouldn't you know it, I forgot about everything going on. I was laughing so hard, I forgot about everything going on. And suddenly, that morphine drip and the pain weren't the focus of my experience. And I saw the nurses in the room, because they had all gathered, I think, to watch the show, or maybe check out the ugly mutant horse dog thing. And they were smiling, and they were beaming. And my family was glowing, and my family was beaming, because for the first time in 4 or 5 days, they knew that I was starting to recover. And they had worked it out with the administration in the hospital, pulled a lot of strings, and made sure that they could find one dog, one poodle that was allowed on this floor. And to those nurses who took care of me, and when I look back on that experience, I remember those nurses and what they did and how much I appreciate them helping me get through that very rough time. And eventually, I scored the lottery, and I found myself here with all of you at Western University, where I received help that would change my life forever. And it started with my first visit to Dr. Valerie Wren. Dr. Wren, where are you? Stand up. When I first visited with Dr. Wren, I was struggling. My leave hours at work were dropping to 0. I was missing a tremendous amount of work. I was not able to be a husband, a father. I was missing many days, and I was struggling with debilitating migraines as a result of the fluorescent light. And wouldn't you know it, I picked the one career government that's absolutely obsessed with fluorescent lighting in every single government building. It was debilitating. When I saw Dr. Wren and I sat down with her, and she also, by the way, was not wearing a lab coat. She said, "Jacob, I know why your visual center is not working. I know about the brain injury. I know what your problem is, but I don't quite have the solution." But what she says is, I promise you, I will literally search the world. I will find an answer. I will figure out how we can give you your life back. And see, she formed an incredible team with 2 other extraordinary individuals, Dr. Liu and Dr. Chase. Will they please stand? And in Dr. Chase's lab, they brought in a colorimeter, this machine which basically they stuck my head in this machine. It went through different colors on the spectrum. I could change the hue, saturation, and brightness as I looked at a piece of paper below me that was lighted. And when I got to this exact color, this light green, my face relaxed. It was magic. We had found the response, the actual filter that left the blues and the reds out and allowed me to function successfully in a fluorescent lit environment. And these glasses, and when Dr. Wren said she would search the world, she was serious. These glasses, the lenses were made in the UK. And the frames were made right here in California. And bridging the world together, she created my sunglasses, which have reduced my migraines from about 95 to 98%. These glasses are the result of life-changing research conducted here at Western University. I was able to grow my career, raise my family, and believe it or not, to my surprise, receive an invitation to address all of you today. Eventually, I also went back to college. I have the record for the most number of years it took someone at UC Irvine to get their degree. But after 8 years, I got my bachelor's degree. I went on and got my master's degree, as you heard, and I entered government as an entry-level analyst. And within 8 years, I had worked my way up to an executive position, helping to oversee 1,200 employees and a $500 million budget. As a freshman, walking on campus, thinking I knew exactly where I was going, I had no idea what success was. And I would never have dreamed that I would be at this moment today. So I have to thank Western University that has allowed me, that has opened so many doors and allowed me to create this world for myself and the professional and personal success. The medical professionals throughout the rehabilitation journey, it was 2.5 years in full-time rehabilitation and about 5 more in part-time rehabilitation. These healthcare professionals saw me through health challenges and they motivated me, like Dr. Wren and team, to push through the barriers. They dusted me off when I fell, no matter how hard that fall, and encouraged me to continue. And while I appreciated their expertise and abilities, it was the personal connections that they restored that meant the most to me. What they did for me defined them as professionals, but how they did it defined them as human beings and healers. As a professional patient, I know, graduates, the professions that you've chosen are extremely demanding, and many of us, including myself as patients, are a little grouchy and grumpy. And as a side note, I really appreciate all of you graduates that put up with me in clinic when I was moody and didn't want to do another test and just wanted to go home. So thank you very much for your patience and professionalism that you always showed each and every visit that I came to Western University. And what I hope that you hold on to is your desire to help others that brought you to Western University in the first place. Every act of kindness, every connection of empathy builds on the foundation of your purpose to care and heal others. Graduates, do great things, but more importantly, be great people, because people just like me are waiting for you to change their lives. Thank you and congratulations, class of 2017.
Thank you, Dr. Green. That was marvelous.